Hello, and thank you for joining me. Firstly, I am aware that there is a volume issue on some of my most recent videos. For anyone who's just come across my channel, unfortunately, this is an up and down problem that I've been having. I got a virus on my computer last year, and unfortunately, this just comes up and down. The volume is at 100%, and I've checked all the settings, I've done a security scan and all the rest of it, but I think that problem I had last year has had a permanent impact. So all I can do is apologize, and when I can, I will try and invest in new headphones or a new laptop for that matter. So yeah, please don't leave comments saying that there's a volume problem because I am aware of it. Just bear with me. I will, however, continue to make videos just for a record, just so that they're there, that I was talking about a particular subject at a particular time. Okay, I want to talk a bit about a social problem that we have in this country, and that is binge drinking. What's prompted me to make this is I've just watched a documentary. I believe the title is On the Rails. I'll try and put a link if I can. Basically, it's a documentary about Britain's railway system and the daily ins and outs of the people who work on the railway. So, conductors, the people who work on board the train and the food department, the British Transport Police, all these sort of very important roles that keep the system running. Now, in the second episode, they focus on it's entitled Summer Madness, and a big focus on that is on revelers. That is people who have either been to a sporting event or they're coming out of nightclubs and they've had a lot to drink. Now, before I talk about this a bit, because I think it's a very real problem in this country, I want to make something very clear. I am not a prude, right? I enjoy a drink as much as the next man. I enjoy two drinks as much as the next man. I enjoy three drinks as much as the next man. When I'm at parties, I drink a fair bit. So I'm not a prude and I'm not against people being merrily drunk. The problem is in this country, a lot of people, firstly, can't handle the drink. And secondly, when they are drunk, it's not a happy go lucky drunk, it's an aggressive drunk. And as this episode shows, it's the people very often who work on the railways and in the emergency services who have to put up with this crap. I really sympathise with them. It's the police, it's those who work on the railway network, it's ambulance workers. Um, and what I find interesting is how, when people are drunk, they totally lose inhibitions. Now, to be fair, some of them may be dicks in outside the alcohol anyway, but certainly being in that state, it creates a sort of facade where they don't care, and I think it's a huge problem in this country. Um, I've been in situations where I've been on a train and it's been late at night, and you get someone who's got on board, and often it's alcohol, sometimes it's drugs as well, but very often it's alcohol, and it's just I find it depressing that people become so unpleasant when they've had a few drinks. Like they feel that gives them a right to be aggressive, to treat other people like dirt, to try and get into fights. And I think one good approach to this would be, if there is CCTV footage of it, play it back to them, shame them, and then maybe they'll wise up a little bit. And because the thing is, these people are not necessarily alcoholics. They're not necessarily people that rely on alcohol, but they're people who, when they binge drink, they respond this way. And it's just selfish, yobbish behaviour. I mean, I was recently on a train in Scotland. It was actually going from Dumfries to Newcastle, and a bunch of guys were on board. And now, to be fair, they weren't being violent, they weren't being particularly aggressive, but just boisterous and loud, singing at the top of their lungs. And what irritates me is people make excuses for this sort of thing and say, "Oh, it's just banter, it's just people having a good time." Here's the thing: that's all very well, but when you're in public, not everyone else wants to put up with you having a good time. That's really disruptive. I think that's really obnoxious. Shouting all over the place and generally making an arse out of yourself. I had to use the toilet, and I had to literally clamber past these guys. And these weren't young guys, incidentally; they were middle-aged men. I asked nicely at first, "Excuse me, I need to get past." They wouldn't listen, just singing. So I had no choice but to kind of push past them, and that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. Um, and when people talk about banter, they're using it as a way to kind of condone this selfish behavior, and that's what it is. It's when grown adults act like spoilt little brats, and it does piss me off a little bit because when you get large groups of people and they're drunk, to them it may be harmless, but what if you have, for example, a pensioner on their own? Um, what if you have tourists? What if you have people who don't necessarily know that these are people who, in their mind, are just having a good time? That behavior can frankly be a bit intimidating, in my opinion. Most of the time, it's not necessarily a case that they're going to cause violence, but all it takes is these people to have a misunderstanding. I mean, in the documentary, it showed a railway worker showed this drunk where the toilets were in one of the big London stations. Actually, it might have been Leeds Central, but the guy was okay at first, but then because he was drunk, he had no inhibitions, he had no concept of the sort of, and then he started getting aggro with the guy. Um, so, oh, you looking at me in a funny way and all, and all the guy had done was show him where the toilets were. And these people think they have a right to act like dicks because they've had some drinks down their system. And it isn't just men, there's plenty of ladettes who behave this way as well. And I find it disgusting, to be quite honest. Um, if you're going to get wasted, do it in your own home, or do it with mates at a house party or something like that, but not in a public transport system. I think it's selfish, obnoxious behavior. And I do think we've a big problem with it in this country. Other countries have their problems. I think this is a particularly British problem. I'm not suggesting that other countries don't have problems with drunks, but I do think this is a particular British problem with people just acting like asses when they drink, and it's just selfish behavior. Anyway, let me know what you think. I don't really accept the argument. It's just banter and they're just having a good time. That's all very well, but when you're making an ass out of yourself, when you are disrespecting people who have to work on the front line in these professions, when you are, falling onto a railway track, actually, one maintenance worker or control station worker made an interesting point. In France and the United States, they wouldn't bother stopping the train. They would take the view, they're there, it's their own fault. In Britain, we are, very tolerant of this sort of nonsense. Um, and yeah, I just find it depressing that this causes so much problems. And it's not a new thing, this goes back to at least the 18th century. At that time there was satirical cartoons depicting the evils of gin. It's a long-standing British problem. Even at that time, there was continental European visitors to Britain who spoke about our issues with alcohol. I mean, alcohol doesn't cause as many deaths as tobacco in this country, but you know, tobacco causes certain problems. It causes lung cancer, obviously, but tobacco, for the most part, isn't going to make people be violent. Alcohol, and I don't think it's an excuse. I think it comes down to the individual, but um, people who can't handle alcohol shouldn't drink. Or if they're going to drink, do it in a house party or something. I get annoyed when it's used as an excuse, or it's just banter, like their team has won or whatever. Look, I'm fine with people having a good time, but my sympathies lie with the long-suffering frontline workers, in these situations, whether it be hospital staff, whether it be railway workers, whether it be the police. They're the ones who have to put up with this crap, and also other members of the public. I mean, I've had drunks start, confrontations with me over nothing because they thought I was looking at them in a certain way, men and women, and it's just an obnoxious, selfish, pathetic attitude to have. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. I believe this is a real problem in this country, and what's the answer? Um, I don't really know, to be honest. Certainly, we have to recognize it's a problem. I do think we need to stop as a society making excuses for it and saying it's just banter. Because as far as I'm concerned, that word banter can be used to basically just cover this behavior, and it is selfish, pathetic behavior. There's no excuse for adults acting that way, and it's not about being, like I say, I enjoy a drink, I enjoy having a good time, but don't do it in a way that you're disrespecting other people. Someone may have had a long day at work, they're just trying to rest on a train. They don't want a bunch of drunks singing loudly around them. Let me know your thoughts.